Folks, it is not completely within my capacity slash ethics slash nature to be entirely straight with you at this time, or ever, really, you know, both hashtag pride and hashtag rambling, but I will come as close as I can to penetrating the mystery that lays before us today. So, I took a couple days off, you know, week and a half, from my daily uploads, but now we are back to it, I hope. Or if not literally, then close to it. With this video, which I am cranking out due to, what else, a lack of time. Movie preparation is an all-day affair, going into the night often. And yeah, so this is a quick video, I hope, because I had such a great start to the day. I got my hair cut. I went in a bookstore for like 2 seconds, you know, during lunch, and I saw Inherent Vice, and I've been thinking about the movie a lot lately. I was hoping to find Ballard's Crash or Lem Solaris, but, you know, I'm very happy with this, so can't wait to get to it after the movie. Anyway, and then, you know, the movie stuff started, and it was just one thing after another. You know, all the stereotypes about making movies are true. You know, someone asked for a happy ending today, and I was like, is that all we need to get this done? And then they were like, oh, no, you know, for the movie needs a happy ending. And I was like, oh, no, that's disgusting. So, I am prepared for these times of being frazzled and low on time, in that I got the idea. This is not an original idea, but I know that some other people did videos where they, like, ask for your competitive hot takes, and then they, you know, react to them. Personally, I need a little quick catharsis here, so, because I have not had a chance to see my ex-wife, Ana de Armas, in Ballerina yet. So, I made a hot takes channel in my Discord server, so this is an advertisement for the Discord, link in the description, join, it's a lot of fun. But at the same time, be warned, because the hot takes channel immediately became the most contentious in the server. And people are arguing, and as I record this right now, there's an argument going on. It's great. Anyway, so I'm now going to look at these hot takes, which I have not glanced at before, and see which ones are worthwhile for this video. Okay, right off the bat, having a check for every viable Pokemon, top 15 used in a tier is overrated. Well, this is, I don't even think this is that hot a take. I think it should be a scorcher. But personally, I think that you should be very prepared. Obviously, you're not going to be equally prepared for every single threat, but, you know, having a check at least, you know, because I think it's the most pointless thing in the universe when, yes, the universe and beyond. God, I wish I had time for a rewatch of 2001. I'll fit it in there. 2001 and Apocalypse Now. What a great day that'll be. Yeah. Having a check for every viable Pokemon, tough. I mean, don't you feel like a complete idiot when you go into a tournament battle and your opponent has insert Pokemon they could very feasibly have? You know, so, oh, they never use it. It's like, that is not something to rely on at all. I realize I've made this point in a million videos before, but maybe you haven't seen or heard those. So, yeah, having a check for the most popular Pokemon, I mean, have a way to play around it. My God, I don't care how low it is in their usage. They might bring it just because it's low in their usage. You know, you never know about this stuff, and what you can control is having a team that can play around things, even the unexpected. It's one thing if the unexpected Pokemon is something that, you know, basically doesn't exist in the metagame, but, you know, stuff that's very popular, no. So, I strongly disagree with this take. It is ridiculous. Status Ferrothorn should be explored more, especially with the amount of switches it forces. Yeah, it's weird how people love Thunder Wave and love Ferrothorn, but really put the two together. It really makes you think about society, doesn't it? No, I get why, because Ferrothorn has so many moves it wants to use, and T-Wave is good and, you know, potentially ruinous. You switch your Heatran into Ferro and get parried, and that's really ugly. It's just, you need Ferro. Look, Ferro has a tough time fitting Leech Seed because it has to contend with things like Magic Guard Pokemon. So if it can't fit Leech Seed, which is, you know, the best move on a lot of grass types, then T-Wave is going to be tough. But obviously, if you can, then it works. Of course, it means you can't run Gyro Ball, but a lot of Ferro don't run Gyro Ball in general. And if you really need that Steel Stab, then you can run Iron Head. In fact, in Oris, T-Wave Ironhead Pharaoh is actually a pretty good check to Clefable, to Calm Mind Clefable without Flamethrower. Obviously, you got to watch out for Magnezone. I'm not saying use it as your only counter, but you take a Pokemon that is usually setup fodder for Clefable and you turn it into a very, very hard counter to a lot of sets. So yeah, big fan. Obviously, if the Clef also has T-Wave, then you're not outspeeding and paraflinching it, but just being able to hit it for decent damage reliably or repeatedly is very good. This game doesn't matter because X is false. It always matters every time, and I'm sick of the people who don't agree. I'm pretty sure this is somewhat trolling, but yeah, I don't like when people undermine the game because it doesn't matter in the real world or whatever. Which God, I really got to make that video on why competitive Pokemon is good for you. I've been thinking about it for a year now. But, yeah, don't undercut. If you like the game, you like the game. There's nothing wrong with it. Don't undermine yourself by saying, it doesn't matter anyway. Because, you could extend that to all human endeavor. And then when you realize that, then you realize that, what matters is what matters to me, and the people around me. And there you go. This is a common argument against nihilism, which tends to be a self-defeating kind of position. Understandable at times, but I think there's some movies I really love which could be described as nihilistic accurately, but it's not about that viewpoint being the end-all be-all. It's just sometimes you need to get that out of your system. Yeah. So, next up, Chansey and Blissey are literally designed to get pregnant. What the fuck is wrong with you? Okay. Yeah. Getting hacks is simply a skill issue. This obviously has a provocative sheen to it. Of course, it has a little bit of truth, or, depending on the situation, a lot of truth. But yeah, the underlying thing, I mostly agree. I don't know how much I agree with it, because it also depends on how much this is meant to be serious. But yes, a big part of being good at the game is not just, looking at the positioning, but also looking at the odds. My friend CL told me a long time ago, if you have 100 games that go exactly the same way, and all you have to do is hit a Draco Meteor to win, should you win all 100 of those games? And it makes sense. You would just say, I'm favored. It's like, yeah, but favored isn't guaranteed. If it was Dragon Pulse, okay. But, because in that case it is literally guaranteed, barring Sandville and other stupid stuff. But Draco, you should win 90 out of those 100 games. So, and then you take into account all the odds that are so possible on every turn. I think I have a video called "Why There's So Much More Luck in Competitive Pokemon Than You Think" or something like that, which is basically about this. But yeah. So it's not just about positioning; it's about really realizing how many often infuriating odds there are on every turn or almost every turn of a lot of games. There are very few turns which have no hacks possible. Double switches, obviously. But yeah, there's so much. Even something innocuous like a whirlwind phase. I can whirlwind out and have that 1/6 or 1/5 chance. Sorry. To drag in a certain Pokemon, and just revealing it early in the game in a non-preview gen is going to be big. So, yeah. So it's a skill issue insofar as a lot of people think of hacks as that thing that just ruins the game, and you don't really think about the percentages because I'm favored. That should be all there is. But if you over rely on Focus Blast, you're probably not going to win that much, even if you are technically favored. So. To some extent, yes, you have to be very aware of these things. Some people, some very talented players just never get past that whole blood-boiling hacks factor, and it really holds them back. And you can kind of exploit it, you can kind of, fish for some misses against them, and suddenly their play goes down the drain. So, to a certain extent, getting hacks is a skill issue, but obviously not always. That claim is, if being made, is so obviously wrong, it leads me to think it's not serious. So, to a certain extent, yes. Most people aren't super unlucky or have as many outrageously lucky opponents as they may think. It's just negativity bias causing these game-losing misses to stick in their minds more than the times they hit several Focus Blasts in a row to win or otherwise hacks their opponent severely. Yeah, this basically goes in line with the first one. I basically agree. However, I will add that some people say, certain players who are famous for getting lucky, they're not actually that consistently lucky. It all evens out over time. And to that, I say, I'm sorry, but no, that's bullshit. And you can throw, it evens out over time as much as you want, but there are certain players who have... Now, obviously, part of why they're so good is because they get themselves in the position to get lucky consistently. That's a skill, of course. So they're not lucky just because they're lucky. They're lucky because they're good, in part. But at the same time, they're also lucky. Like if you recognize, I have, I think I mentioned this in that odds maxing video I did. If you recognize that all you need is one crit or paralysis / full paralysis, and 2 thunderbolts to win, then okay, you go for your odds and you get them. That's skillful, but it's still not very good odds. You still got extremely lucky, and some people get those pieces of luck very very consistently. Stupid stuff like the first T-bolt paralyzes, things like that. Or, yeah, and a lot of times, those things happen late in the game where the options have been so dumbed down where it's like, well, I got outplayed the entire battle, but now I recognize that I can still win if I get 2 crits in 3 turns, and then you go for it and you get it. It's like, wow, that was really skillful. It's not about the fact that you went for the crits, it's about the fact that you started making smart moves when the game was simplified by, lowering the amount of choices to be made, making them more obvious. Anyway, also just the fact that, if I crit this turn, I'll be in a really good spot. It's like, wow, when the fuck does that not apply? Okay, Aegislash should have its old stats back. Why not? How much more chaos could there be in the new gens? Ban paralysis from Gen 4 onwards. Obviously, a lot of people think this is a scorcher, but personally, I agree. They should put lesbians into Pokemon. What the fuck are you doing? I mean, okay. Obviously, where the fuck do I even begin with this? Pride Month and everything. Yes, of course, support it. But, what does that even mean? Because... I have to say, I don't think this was said with the, best of intentions. This sounds more... If it was, then I'm sorry. But, it sounds almost, Who said... Oh, never mind, okay. I thought someone else was saying this. I'm very sorry. I thought it was someone who was known for trolling, and I thought it came off as, fetishistic. When there's a dumbass action movie... Oh, no, that movie Dodgeball. When at the end, he likes the girl and then they win the tournament and then she kisses another girl. He goes, oh no, she's a lesbian. And then she goes, no, I'm bisexual, and kisses him. That kind of fetishistic nonsense. So if this was said honestly, then yeah, absolutely go for it. I think 2 female Pokemon in the daycare should be able to adopt another Pokemon. I don't know how you do that, but, I'm sure someone will figure it out. Ban RBY Tauros. It is broken and ruining the metagame. I mean, Pisone, one of the greatest RBY players ever, agrees with you, so it can't be that hot. I personally don't think I'm in as much... I would like to see where it goes, so I don't think this is that hot. Ban normal types from RBY. Okay, now this feels trolling. It's from the same person who said they should put lesbians into Pokemon, so now I'm kind of confused again. But isn't that what Pride Month is all about for some people? Wink, wink. Rapid Spin buff was good. The fact that it got stronger and raises your speed, I don't know about that. That feels excessive. I don't think I like the idea. Did Rapid Spin need to keep up with the times or something by getting that? Because as far doesn't Great Tusk use it to make itself faster in addition to already getting bulk up or whatever? I don't know if these Pokemon really need the help, these Rapid Spinners. So I'm gonna disagree with this one, and the idea of making Rapid Spin like this in the earlier gens, and absolutely not. Bulky 4 attack, physical T-Tar is the best T-Tar in advance. I would love to agree with this, but I can't really take credit for it. Or sorry, I can't really do so in good conscience. Because I'm biased. Because I can take credit for that set. But that's exactly why. I don't even know if I agree, though. I think Pursuit Tar is probably the most pound for pound... best in terms of how much damage itself T-Tar is going to do, then yes. But in terms of how much utility it's going to give you, I think Pursuit has it beat. Simply because of how big a deal it is to absorb Wisp and trap Gengar, and especially because you need technically all you need are Crunch and Pursuit, and then you can throw a lot of moves into those last 2 slots. And in those games where T-Tar is just a sand machine, then, you know, he gets the job done as well as anything else. And you might get some pursuit chip on something you didn't expect. So, yeah, I think I would go with pursuit, but I appreciate anyone who thinks this. Mega T-Tar is Choppletar, but actually good in Oris. I mean, don't you have to really invest it way too much to actually have it survive Focus Blast? I mean, I get the idea. I like Mega T-Tar's utility in being able to basically be T-Tar but with more freedom in EVs, because you have the same benchmarks. It's basically the same Pokemon but stronger, faster, bulkier. But I don't know if it's out-and-out replacement for Chople. You know, so is it like utility T-Tar but actually good? Sure, but it's not quite the same thing. So, I mean, I guess this kind of works. But I don't think you can just replace it. And not just because of the Mega Competition thing. The choice to not suspect test some of the weaker Ubers into OU, even briefly in more modern metagames, is disappointing and regressive to both the player base and metagame as a whole. I agree, personally. I think, yeah, I like this kind of thing. I do agree with the regressive part in particular, because I think, yeah, I think the logic we use to not, you know, play Ubers in OU is kind of flimsy. Or not Ubers in OU, but like balanced Ubers. You know, like you ban the really broken things like, you know, whatever it is these days, Miraidon, and then you play with the rest. I think that would be fine. You know, especially because you could be more liberal with banning things from Ubers as opposed to Ubers' current conservative banning policy. Yeah, so, yeah, no, I agree. I think if we are as progressive as we claim to be, then we should try it. Yeah, I hear a lot of parallels, too. They should let random, obviously too strong Ubers into the lower tiers of old gens for like a week, a year, just for fun. Let Mewtwo ruin DPPOU for a week. Okay, this is the same person who's... Now, I'm not sure if this is trolling or not. But, I mean, you can do that anytime you want. You know, you just... you know, host a tournament or something with your friends, a casual one-day thing, and, you know, okay, everyone, it's UU, but with Rayquaza, you know. Unban Latios in DPP, I did a video about this a year ago. No. Advanced OU should have a suspect test for Skarmory. I mean, currently they're talking about Dugtrio, which I have to make a video about. But, I don't know, I think, I like what Skarm does. I mean, look, I'm interested to what would happen too, but I think Dugtrio is much more pernicious presence, and I think Skarmory, for all its, you know, centralization, actually does a world of good. Draco, Surf, Ice Beam, Psychic should be standard on Black and White Latios. I don't agree. I mean, unless something has come up. I get the idea, okay? Ice Beam threatens an Oko on Gliscor. That's good. Psyshock threatens Tentacruel and Sand Terrakion and Calm Mind boosted Keldeo. I mean, I get the idea, but standard? I'm not saying it's a bad set by any means. It's Latios, especially. If you put, like, White Herb or Colbur Berry on it, so you can Draco and then... Especially Draco, if you're going to use this much coverage. You can Draco into something that'll still use your coverage after. But I don't think it should be the standard, given that it's lacking either recovery or a way to hit steals or a way to make itself stronger or anything like that. So, standard, I disagree. That set, sure. Chinese lesbians got me fired from my job. Okay. I think I saw a movie like this once. No, like a real movie. The Gen 8 and 9 moveset restriction shouldn't have happened. It was a good thing that nearly every Pokemon got toxic. I agree, personally. But then someone says that way they can be as toxic as their trainers. Now I'm not sure. They should have a National Dex Uber's ladder. It's really lame. We lost that because just of Revive Cats and Terra Shedinja. Is that why? I wouldn't know. Plead the fifth. Ladder's real. Ceaseless Edge isn't a top 10 move. What is ladder is real even? Oh, okay, it was a response. Ceaseless Edge, I don't know. Isn't a top 10 move. I guess we live in a world of boots, but still. Flygon deserves less. Go to hell. Salamence renaming to Flygon was ultimately a good thing. Salamence is a much cooler name. So yeah, I agree. For those who don't know, it's Bagon, Shelgon, Salamence, and then there's Trapinch, Vibrava, Flygon, and clearly they were switched. But yeah, no, I agree. Even though Flygon's not really much of a salamander, so who knows? Maybe it was just an English... whatever. Oh, the Chinese lesbians was a UU's live stream diary. Okay, I don't know what the reference means in particular, but okay. Pokemon Black and White is the worst game in the series with a story that makes no sense, ugly graphics, awful Pokemon designs, Dexit 1.0, massive spikes levels for evolving, and an uncomfortably sexualized female avatar. You know, at one point during this, I wanted to say, you know, as opposed to the other Pokemon games. First of all, what do you mean story that makes no sense? I think story that makes no sense is an awful criticism in general. You know, it's like when someone says, oh, you know, this thing in the movie is pointless. You know, it's like, it clearly has a point. You know, I'm not saying it's a good point or a bad point, but pointless, if you're going to attack it, you know, attack it in another way. Or say, oh, it didn't need to be there. It's like, technically nothing needed to be there, you know? So... okay, so I disagree with the story. I think Black and White clearly has a great story. Relative to Pokemon terms, you know, I really hate when people go to the Pokemon games of all things and go, oh, you know, these games aren't, you know, perfect, amazing games. It's like, yeah, man, they're for kids. You know, the experience is the experience is more important. You know, the game design mechanics are not even secondary. They're like tertiary at best. So... yeah, I think it's really weird when people go into like Gen 7, Gen 8 after being around for several generations go, ugh, the new Pokemon games aren't good. It's like, dude, it's roughly... I prefer the older games too, of course. I haven't played Scarlet and Violet. Maybe I should. But yeah, I definitely skipped out on Sword and Shield because it looked bad. But, you know, it's not that I was expecting a great game. It's just I was expecting... I don't know what I was expecting. You know, I would prefer Pokemon Coliseum. Ugly graphics, gotta disagree with you there, Chief, but I understand. I understand that it kind of occupies a strange middle ground, but between, you know, the stylization of the DS, or the, you know, Gen 4, you know, Gen 3, like, or the first 4 gens, you know, the sprite format and then the 3D to follow. But personally, I liked it. I like that middle ground. I think, even if it's not, you know, a traditionally beautiful aesthetic or anything, I think, that it's an interesting one that then becomes beautiful through its interest, if that makes sense. Awful Pokemon designs, I mean, I disagree. I think it's got some great ones. I think they're conceptually interesting, if nothing else. But, yeah, I guess I don't think they're the best, but they're not awful. You know, there are definitely other gens that are way worse. Dexit 1.0, I like that personally. I like that you can only get Unova Pokemon in Black and White 1. Massive level spikes for evolving. I don't really care about that. And an uncomfortably sexualized female avatar. I mean, I don't know. This is not really my domain. And then some people started getting into an argument here, and it's like, oh, she just wears shorts. And then, you know, the person who originally posted the hot take was like, yeah, but she, you know, bends over when she throws the Pokeball. But so they... And now, see, this is what I mean about this channel being so entertaining. You know, it's like they drew her from behind, like every other playable trainer. And it's like, then there's talk about the Gooner Vision Pro. And I was like, whoa. So then there's a discussion about Lopunny being more blatant in this regard. Personally, I don't think it's that bad. I understand, you know, if there's a pervert out there, then they're gonna, you know, look at it like that. But, you know, they'll find that in a lot of things. So I don't think it's particularly excessive, but, you know, I'll leave that to the experts. Okay. Stall is healthier and more fun to fight than Hyper Offense. Hang on, let me put on another replay. How much time do I have? Is it like Mr. Incredible? Yeah, I've got time. Yeah, I've got time. Barely. But for you, the kind viewer / listener, then I will make it. Stall's healthier, more fun to fight than Hyper Offense. Trying to find a weak point in a massive defensive core is both more interesting and more fun than trying to stop a bunch of setup sweepers from demolishing my team over and over again. I agree, personally. I mean, look, Hyper Offense also has its long-term planning, because you can't just stop the sweeper in front of you. You gotta keep in mind how you're gonna stop the sweepers in the back. But, you know, the longer the game goes on, the more interesting the decisions made, I think, personally. More demanding. Obviously, you know, stall teams can be as rote to play against as Hyper Offense, But you know, a good drawn out game, that's my favorite kind. Although, of course, sometimes you get a bang-bang kind of game, and, you know, there's nothing better, you think. So I think, as always, it's a healthy balance is good. But yeah, Stall gets villainized too much, because I think it's just about, you know, I want more games, as many games as possible in a short period of time. It's like, just enjoy the game you have, you know? I understand if you're playing with a short, time frame, but, yeah. Now someone else is saying the point is valid, AF. But someone else says, I agree, but my own hot take is I don't think Hyper Offense is the inherently cheesy / brain dead style people pigeonhole it as. This is, of course, also true. It can be, but it is not necessarily. Just like Stall isn't necessarily, you know, switch between walls until the opponent gives up and leaves, you know. But yeah, Hyper Offense can win just by brute force, but if you're going to consistently win with these kinds of teams, you have to put a lot of thought into them. A lot of planning ahead, a lot of skill, all that. So, yeah. As an aside, everyone should watch Brain Dead by Peter Jackson. Better than the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I've mentioned this in other videos, but yeah, I really love it. It's one of my favorites. Very funny. They had designed the black and white main characters to be cool. Okay, sure. Lopunny was based on the Playboy Bunny type outfits? Oh my goodness. Who knows? Salazzle? Was Salazzle considered that? Reverse hair? Oh my goodness. Okay. Can a quirked up white shiny Salazzle with a little bit of swag and who's goated with the sauce bust it down sexual style for the one time? I'm sorry you had to hear that, but I had to read it, so. Now there's the discussion about Hyper Offense. Let me find another replay while I find the next hot take. Stealth Rock isn't a top 3 move. Well, maybe nowadays in the days of boots and all the other OP stuff that's flying around. Which 3 or more? U-turn, Volt Switch, knockoff? Okay, sure. Nowadays, sure. Pre-boots, absolutely not. Okay. Then someone says last respects, and that's pretty nuts. Spikes over rocks, now there's a discussion. They made that move to fuck over singles players, sure. DPP Gyarados is more annoying than Rachi. Honestly, this is not even that hot a take. A lot of people in the know in DPP think this. And it's usually people going LOL complaining about Gyarados when Jirachi exists are the ones who are not as familiar with DPP. It's kind of a tell. Unfortunately, doesn't begin to describe. Yeah. Not more than South Rock. Suicune was one of the biggest losers of the switch to 3D. They give it this weird greenish tint that looks awful. Yeah, I don't like a lot of the 3D models in X and Y. I think in the Stadium and Coliseum and XD, Stadium 2, Coliseum XD, Battle Revolution, I loved the 3D models, and it stuns me that, you know, these ancient games have such a better look than these, you know, better look, more personality, more movement, more dynamism, more style, all of it. Yeah, weird greenish tint. I don't remember the greenish tint, but I just don't like the look in general. The position, everything, yeah. Mons that can't boost speed, pivot, recover, and don't have any one overwhelming stat are all useless. I don't know about all useless, but yeah, it is good to keep in mind that, you know, the utility a Pokemon brings. You know, it's either got to have a lot of utility in like a stat or a move or something, or longevity, or, you know, it's got to have, you know, some crazy stats to, I think I said stats, whatever. I don't fully agree, but there is truth to this, of course. Here's more complaint about Gen 5 sprites. The overworld looks great, I agree. Pokemon has to be able to influence the shape of the game in some way. Yeah, no, I agree. That's basically the idea. Sleep is broken, should be banned in every generation. Yes, I agree. I've made many videos about it. Could not agree more. Paralysis, yeah. Confusion is broken. I mean, honestly, it does just bring literal coin flips into the game. I don't know about broken, but, you know, it is stupid. So, and I think those things can often be interchangeable. You know, stuff that just basically exists to introduce variance, which is the enemy of competitiveness. Yeah, not fully, obviously, because we play a variance-heavy game, but, you know, the stuff that's excessive. And, yes, there is a border, I think. Confusion, yeah. Unique stat spreads and usage cases are better than min-maxed or rounded BSTs. Yeah, I agree. Here follows a discussion about, you know, the Paradox Pokemon, which have, like, Deoxys-style stats. And, yeah, no, 100% agree. I think they're ridiculous. I think one kind of Pokemon, if there was like one Great Tusk or whatever, or like two, that'd be fine. But when there's so many of them, I don't really like what it does to the game. Generally, like, cheesy stuff is found in the extremes. I don't think that the Paradox Pokemon are inherently cheesy or anything, but it's a dynamic of, you know. I feel like it takes out a lot of the subtlety in Pokemon. Obviously, you know, there have been so many metagames with overpowered things where the details and the nuances are found in trying to navigate around, you know, crazy broken things. I mean, what else is Ubers, right? But I don't know. I feel like they're going out of their way to make these Pokemon too flawless. You know, like yeah, like Zacian Crowned is obviously ridiculous, but it's also, you know, a box art legendary. Obviously, it's crazy even for a box art legendary, but, you know, now there's these regular Pokemon that, you know, you can't give them that high a base stat total, obviously, because they're not a Pokemon of such status. But at the same time, you look at it and you're like, well, you know, you don't need to give them that base stat total if you just don't give them, if you give them very low stats in the stats they're not going to use. So, like, nowadays, if you wanted to make a Pokemon like Zacian Crown, maybe not that extreme, but you would just, you know, give it super low special attack. You know, and wow, that base, I don't even know what its special attack is, but, you know, if you give it base 40 special attack, then wow, that base stat total isn't quite so high. Oh, but it does have a high stat total, but it does go to the extremes that Pokemon with high base stat totals do, because their speed and attack are so over the top. So, yeah, definitely agreed. Balanced stat spreads are also fine as long as they're not high across the board. Yeah, I agree with this. Yeah, stuff like Blacephalon is pretty balanced. It's not quite that outrageous. Now here's a discussion. Random battles is a format with a high skill expression or ceiling. Yeah, I agree with this. I've played Ranbats before, and if you want to, you do have to, I mean, it seems random, right? And obviously sometimes you will have games where, you know, you face a Kyogre and just automatically lose. But for the most part, you know, I think you can win consistently if you play. Honestly, playing random battles really does a lot to teach you the essentials of Pokemon, because you don't know what you're going to have going in. And you have to figure out your opponent's win conditions and your own, and play with them and around them. So, yeah, no, I fully agree. Poltergeist is one of the most well-designed moves in Pokemon history. I'm no game design expert, but I won't say no. Yeah, no, I like the idea. I like the idea that if you're going to have... Yeah, I like that it fails completely if you don't have the item. And I like it especially how that exists in a world with a buff knockoff. Without buff knockoff, I think, well, it's too free, you know? Because you don't want to just run... I remember seeing itemless Golurk sometime in Gen 8 to block Poltergeist. I think, anyway. But I don't think that... yeah, I think if knockoff wasn't, you know, as popular as it was, then you would just be able to spam Poltergeist too freely. But if you do have knockoff flying around everywhere, then this is like, well, do you want to spam that super broken move? Because then it means you can't spam this other strong move. So I like that a lot. That part of it, anyway. Can't say I've really thought about it further. I like 32 PP recover. And there's a gif of LeBron saying mods 1984 this guy right now. Dark. But, yeah, no, I don't think Starstruck Shiny, who said this, should be sent to room 101. I liked it. I liked it before, but I don't know if I like it still now. I am a fan of making defense, more viable in a world of increasing offensive firepower, but I don't know. I don't know if I'd go so far as to go with this hot take, which is they should have made all the recovery moves 32 PP instead of nerfing them. In a world with Toxapex, that may be a bit much. But, I do like my long games, so, maybe. Yeah, maybe there's a middle ground of 24. 24 recovers, I think, is fine. Well, maybe, who knows. Here's Fear saying GSC, recover should be nerfed to 20 PP with... Basically, take out the PP, a PP up complex ban. You don't get to max it out to 32. You just start with the regular recover, which I mean, that's still more than the standard 16 recover, which we had from gens 4 through 8. So yeah, good with me. And with this, then we should get Ho-Oh and Celebi retested in OU. I've made a video about this before, and personally, I agree. I would like to see Celebi and Ho officially tested in GSC. I think it'd be great. I think it helps, it's not just shaking it up for the sake of it. I think it helps improve the metagame, which we should also always be open to doing. And I don't think GSC has enough of a massive player base to where you risk alienating them. Like, oh no, we have this huge, they say that about Advanced Dugtrio. With Advanced Dugtrio being banned, you'd completely change the metagame, you'd alienate such a big player base. With GSC, you don't have that problem. So, Pokemon needs more variants of hazards. Oh, jeez. Like hazards that only hit airborne units or enemies you can fly or dive, or stronger variant of spikes or stuff like that's easier to get rid of and can give your opponent a boost of some sort if they do get rid of them. I think this is going to make the game even more of a hazard war clusterfuck than it already has the habit of falling into. Give Corviknight spikes just to make it even better than Scarm? No. And give it Unaware? Give it plus 10 to HP defense and special defense? Okay. Then there's discussion about Goldengo, and now it's an actual, well, it's not an argument at least, like the whole female trainer from Black and White and Lopunny thing. There's a DJ Khaled image. Oh boy. Okay, those are all the hot takes for today. Thank you so much for watching / listening. I hope you join the Discord and give us hot takes for next time. Yeah, that is about it. I will now go record another video. No, that's tomorrow. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one.